at it again. Well, it's been a while, but I'm back. We got a review for the new Scream 7. Kevin Williamson, Neve Campbell. Let's go. Yes, so I got to see the new Scream 7. Before we dive into this movie, give a little bit of backstory of my expectations of this movie. You know, what I was hoping for this movie. You know, all that kind of stuff. But what I'll say, I'm a Scream fan. I wouldn't necessarily consider myself. It's not in like. Ghostface is not necessarily in my top 3 favorite slashers, even though I think the movies are consistently either great or really good. The original is one of my favorite horror films of all time. So I do have a love for this franchise, even though it's not up there for me as far as like a Halloween or a Child's Play or Nightmare on Elm Street. But as far as this franchise goes, this franchise is pretty good, pretty consistently good throughout its run. There's not really a whole lot of bad, like a lot of the other horror franchises have. So going into this one, obviously the whole Melissa Barrera news, she got fired for a comment that she made. I will forever go down as like, I hated that she got fired. I thought it was totally unfair. But I'm not going to, talk about that stuff too much. Obviously, that also eventually led to John Ortega leaving. So, right then and there, I was already like, wow, I don't really want to see another movie if these two aren't going to be in it. Because I'm a big fan of the Core 4. Obviously, as we'll get into, 2 members of the Core 4 are still in this movie, in Chad and Mindy. But I thought Scream 6 was a lot of fun. Does Scream 6 have its issues? Sure. But the best parts of Scream 6 is the Core 4. I just didn't think we need Sidney anymore. Like, I'm a Sidney fan. I think she's probably the best final girl ever. But I don't know that we needed her in any more movies. It's the same thing with, like, Jamie Lee Curtis with Halloween that I keep stressing. Like, we can do these characters without these final girls. I mean, they've had their run. Give somebody else a shot. But as this movie started coming out with trailers and dropping people that are potentially in it, the Matthew Lillard, that news, I was like, that got me psyched because I like Matthew Lillard a lot. Stu Macher is an incredible character from the original. I mean, that had me excited. Obviously, knowing Mindy and Chad were coming back, knowing some of the cast that I like Anna Camp a lot, and like season 5 for example. Like I always enjoy her, True Blood. So I was liking the cast they were putting together. So in the trailers I thought were cool. There's the Airbnb thing in the trailers, which is also delivered pretty well in this movie. But so I was like, okay, I'm back on board. I'm getting excited again. I don't know that I definitely didn't have the hype that I would have had for Scream 6 or even Scream 5 when those movies came up. But I was like, okay. I can get on board again. Let's see what they got in store for us. And Kevin Williamson's directing it. Obviously, he wrote he wrote the first 4 movies. So I was like, okay, he knows this franchise. He's going to deliver something really, really good. And so I was like, okay. As far as the movie goes, Scream 7. This obviously takes place, you have Neve Campbell, Sidney Prescott. She has a family now. She has a husband and 3 kids, but they mostly focus on her one kid that's 17. Her name is Tatum, obviously named after Sidney's friend Tatum, played by Rose McGowan in the original movie. So basically come around this Ghostface starts, going after her kid. And Sidney kind of has to figure things out. Also protect her kid, but not to be too protective. Normal Scream starts off. I mean, there's some differences that I'll get to. I also say this is, the second part of this is spoiler. The first part that I'm going into right now, I won't spoil stuff for those who haven't seen it. Let's go ahead and go into the positives. Before I even get to the positive, I'm just going to say straight out, I was not a fan of this movie. I was disappointed. I was just hoping for so much more, considering the cast, considering Matthew Lillard. Like, I was like, you have a shot here with some of the pieces that could change my mind. And it's like I said at the top, my expectations maybe weren't as high as they normally would have been. So maybe the disappointment's not as strong. But there's things that this movie does that kind of piss me off, especially as a Scream fan. Even though, like I said, I'm not it's not my top 3 franchise, but I'm still a fan of this franchise. I've seen a lot of these movies countless times. But yeah, this movie just didn't deliver on what I was hoping. But before we get into why that is, some of the positives. I think some of the kills are good in this movie. I think some of them are actually well done. There is one particular kill that I don't think was well done. Didn't look good either. But for the most part, I thought some of these kills were pretty solid in certain spurts. Like, there's a bar top scene that I thought was really good. I thought it was really creative, I should say. Really creative in a movie that's not very creative. So I was like, okay, that I dug. There's another kill with the theater set that I thought was well done. I wouldn't say it was like amazing kills. But then again, for a Scream franchise, I don't know that there's a ton of amazing kills. But I thought kills wise, pretty solid. The other, another positive that I came across, some of the relationship stuff is good again. That's a big thing for these Scream films, especially when you have the legacy characters and what they meant to each other. I like how this movie kind of goes into the ramifications of what happened to Gail in New York, how messed up she was, and how Sidney didn't really reach out and wasn't there. I like how they addressed that stuff. It also just showed how effed up Gail is at this point. She's a wreck at this point, and I'm sure, and it's not surprising. It's surprising she's even alive, really, but I'm sure the pain is unreal, not to mention losing, Dewey in Scream 5. So I like how they kind of deal with that. There are aspects of Sidney and her daughter Tatum that I do enjoy, that I think they tackle really well, as far as the mother-daughter thing, how to be not too protective, but also you want to, if you're in Sidney's situation, I can't say I blame her, because this happens to you a lot. So, yeah, I don't want to say that's where it ends. I don't think this is not one of the worst movies I've ever seen. There's some things that, some of the characters are enjoyable. I think Sidney's enjoyable. I think she kicks ass like she normally does. There's some dialogue stuff I don't love from her character, but Gail's good. For a lot of your legacy characters, or even when Mindy and Chad are on screen, are really enjoyable, even though they're not used enough. But we'll get to that in negatives. But it's not I'm not watching Freddy's Dead here or anything, but there's a lot of disappointing stuff. And you know what? Let's get into the negatives. This movie really, and I don't think this is a spoiler, really. No, I don't really think it is, because you definitely have seen it everywhere, but nostalgia is heavy in this movie, and it's not used well. Unfortunately, it's really not used well. And it really makes you mad towards the end of this movie, which I'll get to in the spoilers. But it's some of the most mind-boggling decisions, especially from a writer like Kevin Williamson. It just kind of angers you, like, what are you doing, type stuff. I think I said at the top, this movie's not really that exciting for a Scream film. Usually I'm excited to guess who the person is. I mean, I was still trying to do that because it is a guess movie at the end of the day. But like just overall, I just was not engaged in this movie as much as I normally am for a Scream film. I thought it was predictable for the most part. A lot of things I just saw coming. The Scream franchise has also really gotten to this point where there's some things you really have to suspend your disbelief for. Like, you really have to be like, that happened? I don't really, just, what are we doing? So there's some things like that in this movie. And there was stuff like that in 5 and 6, but there's a particular thing in this movie that goes one step farther. So some of the dialogue is not the best, especially for a Kevin Williamson movie. There's a lot of sequel type dialogue, which I don't always love. Talking about the negatives, the biggest negative really, and I'm going to really get into this in the spoiler part of it, Matthew Lillard is just misused in this movie, and it's really unfortunate. It kind of pisses me off. Because I know a lot of fans were hoping one thing. People want to say that some of this is nostalgia and fan service, but the problem is, like, I just feel like the fan service wasn't well done at all. Fan service is tough. Like, I think it can be done and used well and be okay, but there's other situations where fan service is not good at all and is unfortunate. And this movie is definitely nostalgia led, and this movie had something that it had a shot to be something, and it just was lazy, in my opinion. Went really lazy, and that's unfortunate, especially the cast that you have. It's just, I mean, I forgot Ethan Embry is another person, just a really good cast that just kind of gets left by the wayside. I will say, one thing I was disappointed in, and one more negative before I get to the spoilers, Sydney's daughter Tatum, her friend group is very forgettable. Very forgettable. I don't care at all about her friend group. Usually when you introduce these new friend groups like you did with 5 and 6, usually you enjoy most of them. I just, even McKenna Grace's character is very forgettable. Just some of the writing is not as good as you would hope, which is unfortunate. But yeah, guys, I'm about to get into the spoilers, so if you haven't seen this movie, then I suggest possibly, not watching the rest of this. So I am about to get into spoilers, so just so you know that. So I'm not gonna go scene for scene. This is kind of a quick spoiler thing. Most of what I'm going to be talking about is Matthew Lillard. What I will say, so this movie has 3 killers, but they're kind of spread out. Well, the one is spread out. You find out who one of the killers off, at the top, or not at the top of the movie, but middle of the movie. Basically, an escaped mental patient. I think he escaped. But he ends up being tied in with these 2 other characters, played by Anna Camp and Ethan Embry, that are the 2 main killers towards the end. I'll say for the most part, these killers are forgettable. I think there's some good violence within this movie that make them kind of exciting, but as far as the reveals and stuff, basically Anna Camp's reveal is that she She's basically read Sidney's book, was a huge fan, and then was let down by how Sidney didn't continue, I guess, to be strong, essentially. I can kind of get behind that. The other two, not as much. There's not as much of a thing there. I do like Anna Camp a lot, and I thought that her reveal was at least fun compared to a lot of the rest of this movie. But to get to that point, they make you think it's Stu Macher the entire time. As I know now, it was not Stu Macher, and my fears of what this movie was going to be have come to light. I thought maybe Stu Macher was alive when I was, as far as the trailers go, and we were just going to find out he's just in this limited role, which also would have made me mad. Instead, we get Matthew Lillard. He is in a limited role, but Stu Macher is not alive. He is basically being AI, if you want to put it that way, by these Ghostface to lure Sidney. And wow, it's not well done. All you really see is Matthew Lillard on a phone consistently as he would call Sidney to kind of mess with her head. And it was really badly done. There's a lot of on the phone stuff throughout this movie that's not very good. We're just on the phone way too much in this movie, and I get it. You're trying to relate to nowadays, but it just doesn't translate movie wise. And the AI stuff, I also get it. You're trying to tackle something that is currently a big thing for a lot of people right now. Doesn't work in this movie. It just doesn't. Getting people excited for Matthew Lillard and then this is the way that you use his character is just so unfortunate. It was such a punch in the gut. And yeah, it's just unfortunate. Some things I'll just say that I liked. There was a Ghostface shot that was resembled Michael in the original Halloween when he comes out of the shadows. I thought was pretty cool. I liked it, showing that. I actually thought the Airbnb stuff in the beginning that you see in the trailers was actually pretty good. I thought they executed it well. I mean, you see a lot of it in the trailer, but I felt I was okay, if this was actually an Airbnb where these two characters come, they're going to stay. The guy character is really into it, whereas his girlfriend is not so much into it. They kind of play with this robot Ghostface that is motion sensor, and it ends up actually being one of the Ghostfaces, and I was wow, this is really cool. I thought at the beginning, I was okay, I'm in. I mean, this movie looks like it has potential. And then when Ghostface walks out, again, you see this in the trailer too, but he walks out and the place is on fire. Awesome. A great shot. Reminded me of the Michael shot from Halloween Kills. Unfortunately, both of these shots are not in very good movies, but Gale's arrival in this movie is pretty iconic. When they first kill the first Ghostface, she just runs him over, and then that's her intro, and then obviously Chad and Mindy. I thought that was actually funny. I actually enjoyed that. It was a bit campy and stupid, but I actually thought it was funny, and just felt like Gale to me. I really dug her entrance in this movie. Like I said, there's a couple things I feel like they do well, but overall, just the Matthew Lillard stuff just really makes me mad. There's a thing at the end where she is trying to find her daughter. She was kidnapped by Anna Camp's character and Ethan Embry's character, and Stu Macher shows up on the screens, the different screens within the house. She's trying to find her daughter, but each screen keeps playing somebody new. It starts with Stu Macher, and then it goes to a bunch of other killers, Billy's mom, to Dewey at one point. It was showing a bunch of people, and I was wow, this is not good. This is nostalgia at its worst. It's just, it's just like, you gotta make a better movie. You can have nostalgia, you can have fan service, but you just gotta execute the movie better. Like, you just can't throw all these things and expect people to just think your movie's good. I have a hard time with fan service because I don't hate fan service when it's done well, but then you have a movie like Rise of Skywalker, or this movie, or Five Nights at Freddy's 2, that just like, it's so unfortunate because like, this has been a pretty solid franchise up to this point. A lot of highs, and even like, there's not like too many lows in this franchise, and this movie's a low. It's not a movie that I particularly want to watch again, and that's kind of rare for a Scream movie. Like, I typically like going back to a lot of the Scream films, and this one I just couldn't wrap my arms around it. It's not one of the worst horror films I've ever seen. It's not like in the top end of bad slasher films, but it's just disappointing in the fact, just not necessarily that I wasn't just like super excited for this movie, but disappointing in the fact that this is how we're using Stumacher. Like, what the heck? It's unfortunate. I also wish Anna Camp was in a different movie revealed as a killer, because I think Anna Camp's really good, and I think her reveal is actually pretty good, and her explanation made enough sense to me that I was on board for that, but just the rest of the movie just didn't work. The thing that sucks, and I don't know if other people will talk about this, I think bringing back Stumacher is possible, but the problem is I don't think you bring him back against Sidney. You could, but I don't know that she needs to be the main person for that. It makes a lot more sense to me if Sam is involved, because Sam has a connection with Billy. I think that would have been a much more interesting story. You could have still had Sidney in there. Obviously, she has a history with Stu, but there's just nobody in this franchise would be like, oh man, Stu came back. Like how bad is that? Like, it would be like, people would love that if it's done well. But yeah, there's a part of me that thinks this franchise was doomed once they decided Melissa Barrera's fired and we're not bringing her back. It's just, I don't know if I could say that, but I do think it's unfortunate, because I think she was great, and I missed her character. I missed Tara. I missed Jenna Ortega. And I missed the core four as a whole in this movie. I just think they're great. And I still think Chad and Mindy, when they're in this movie, are engaging. They're fun. But it sucks, because I think Scream 6 gave you a lot of good stuff. And you could have built off that. And this is the movie we get instead. And it's just not very good. Alright guys, that's my review for Scream 7. So I'm going to grade this one real quick. Well, I guess it's not technically grades anymore, but it's really tough to put it in the skip area, because this is a franchise that people love, so who am I to say skip? But I don't think this movie is watchable. I don't think this movie is must-see. If you don't want to be disappointed, I would say skip this movie. I'm going to be honest with you. Maybe wait to see it once it comes out. Yeah, it's tough. That's a tough one. But yeah, guys, that was my review for Scream 7. I will have a Scream ranking. I don't know I might either do a ranking or a tier ranking, one of the two, of the franchise. So I'm excited to do that. See as of right now, it's probably obvious where this one will land, but you never know. So I'm excited for that, and more to come on this channel. Yeah, and as always, guys, one more thing. Don't forget to comment, subscribe. Let me know, are you a fan of this franchise? How is this movie for you if you got to see it? Are you excited to see this movie if you haven't? What's your expectations if you haven't? Where's this movie rank for you? I mean, obviously I'm going to have a tier ranking coming out soon, But let me know down in the comments. But yeah, guys, as usual, I'll see you next time.